By the 1930s, they began to negotiate land for a facility on the moon, which later became Lunar Operations Command, this 20-acre spot. So all the land on the moon is already claimed by the Draco and Reptilians, so they had to make a deal with them. And part of the deal was that they would control humanity on planet Earth, our development. So since this treaty took place, that is the reason why free energy inventors have been eliminated, or oftentimes because the Draco are in charge of our civilizations. It's because of that treaty. But that treaty is now null and void. Okay, so the Germans started moving personnel to Antarctica during World War II through these U-boats. And eventually they had about 300,000 personnel by the end of the war. So this is what we call New Schwabeland. And these Germans consider themselves separate from the Nazi apparatus. During the end of the war, they had the flying vril technology, but they didn't want to share it with Adolf Hitler because they thought he was insane. The secret treaty started, so basically the Americans wanted to get a hold of this technology when during the late 40s and Project Paperclip, when the Americans were sending personnel to Germany, they were going into these underground facilities and were shocked at the advanced technology. And that's been supported by William Tompkins in his testimony. But so there was, we're going to talk a little bit about mutually destroyed destruction. Okay, so MAD. So basically, what was going on here is that the Americans and the Soviets were sharing information about they're sharing information about their nuclear program. So the whole thing about this nuclear war threat that was going on in the 1950s was not between the Soviets and Americans. It was between the Germans and Antarctica. And they even got themselves a Bikini Atoll over there in the picture on there. That was the first nuclear weapon tested by the Nazis. So that, let's see here, the Nazis showed their power when they detonated a nuclear bomb on an American heavy cruiser on its way back from Bikini Atoll. So the MP disabled the cruiser. The Americans were able to get it running again and it limped back to Hawaii. The Germans believed the Americans would cover up the event, so they filmed it and sent boxes of the film to every leader in the world, so there was no questions that the Nazis had nukes and were willing to use them. So this particular time in our history was very dangerous because there was an alternate reality where I believe it was actually the Americans dropped a cobalt bomb on Antarctica to just try to destroy them. And what happened? They destroyed the whole planet. And later on, if you follow secret space program culture lore, you find out that the people out there have videos of this alternate reality, and they show people that Earth is a wasteland and that they're the last survivors of humanity. So let's go back a little bit. So the Cabal agreed to capitulate, and they also wanted to get a hold of some of the advanced technology from the Germans. So they allowed these Germans to come to the United States under Project Paperclip, and the Germans would teach them theory, but not technology. By 1952, most of the Germans had lost thousands of people. They've lost 25% building out these colonies. So of 300,000 people, that's quite a large bit of population. So they were seeking more new personnel to fill their ranks. And that's where these 20 and back came into play. So I'm going to briefly touch on that. Let's go on here. So under Operation Deep Freeze, that was 55 to 59. That's also when the treaties basically dictated that people can no longer travel to, or countries cannot claim parts of Antarctica, and you have to get permission to visit some parts of Antarctica from the Germans. So the classified version of Operation Deep Freeze dictated that the Germans would be given 150,000 personnel and about 55,000 people per year. So that was 1955 beginning. And they would be, service periods would be about 5 years, and they would be allowed to have citizenship in the German colonies in the breakaway. But that eventually grew to 20 years because in 1959, the Germans got a hold of memory erasure technology. So now people could serve for 20 years, and they wouldn't even remember it. They would be time traveled and brought back. So this is now increased to 1 million people per year. Okay, so task groups were expanded. Yeah, so basically they expanded all throughout the galaxy, and they time travel back in time. So if they wanted to order, say, a new star cruiser, they would put together a team of slave laborers and time travel back in time 20 years, providing them the resources they need, and then boom, a new star cruiser would appear. So essentially, now with all the Germans would go back in time and abduct people that would have died in, say, plane crashes or train accidents, or even further back to the bubonic plague or something like that, and then they have medbed technology and regenerate these people. So let's go on here. All right, so as you can see, the Germans are always seeking more and more personnel, and a lot of these bases need security, and that's where the super soldier type program comes on. So I'm going to explain a little bit more about myself. So I am a super soldier, my other aspect out there. And the here and now, I'm just a YouTuber and an experiencer. But so yeah, initially, I came to planet Earth during the time of Atlantis, and I went by the name of Perseus back then. So they made stories about me, but I was a general in Atlantis, and there was a queen there by the name of Medusa, and she had her hands in every aspect of society, and I was tasked as a general to remove her from power. So it wasn't snakes in her hair, but the snakes are an aspect of like a representation of something else. Okay, so let's go on here. So initially, the Draco approached my species and asked for help with a problem with AI infestation. So I volunteered to help them out. And then as soon as I got on board, they gassed us with green gas, captured our soul, and sold our fragments to different planetary corporations. And I traveled to many epochs in history. So one of the ways, if you get captured in one of these battles with these Draco, they would, like for instance, at Hammerhead, they could split your consciousness, or they send you back in time to, say, like the caveman era or time of dinosaurs, and you would be stuck there for millions of years. Okay, some of the different aspects that I believe I was, some of the memories that I had. I'll skip the first. I think I was around in the time of Jesus, but I don't know. I was just the guy that handed out fish in the crowd or whatever, food. But anyway, Daniel Paysor. If anybody's seen my Changes on the Horizon documentary, I feel like I'm closely associated with Saint Germain, and then that's when I realized what my connection was. Saint Germain appointed Daniel Paysor to act as a beacon because all the money in the Paysors was in Saint Germain's trust. So all these corporations that stole the money from the Paysors that's basically Saint Germain's money. So I was also Hobie Baker. That's why my last name is Rink, because I was a hockey player back then. And we'll go into a little bit about that. And I'm not going to skip about Brock too much. Okay, so essentially Saint Germain appointed. Saint Germain knew the French Revolution was going to occur, so originally he wanted to make a United States of Europe. And there is an alternate timeline where that happened in this United States of Europe, but it's more like a Star Trek civilization. But he focused on the United States because he knew that the United States would be a way to bring about this new civilization eventually, which will become Nasara, and we'll have our own breakaway. But so that's what I used to look like back then. So the Oak Island treasure and the Garthian treasures were initially given to the Paysors to build up the United States. That's why the United States is which would you consider a first world civilization, whereas most of North and South America are not developed, because this is all Paysor money given to us, by the Garthians and from Inner Earth, helping us as a country. Okay, so another aspect, and again, part of Project Surrogate, what they would do is these are not incarnations where I'm going back in time. My soul is like splintered into many different aspects. So I'm here, but I'm also there. And if I was to die, I don't go through this process where everybody else goes through. I immediately pop into another body that they have prepared for me. And during World War II, allegedly his plane Hobie Baker's plane went down, and there's a whole story behind that. But remote viewing it, we see that a clone was put on the airplane, and that's what went down. And then the original body was taken to the moon, where he was put into simulations to test his ability to become a navigator, because dark fleets, Noctuoff, are always looking for good navigators, and athletes make good navigators because they're able to see, project their consciousness and see through, like, for instance, transversing a meteor field or so on. Okay, so this particular aspect was created by the Matra. I guess that's the only other thing I could add about that. Yeah, so we see that his body is still around. It's on ice in Area 51, but his DNA was used to make other aspects. We'll go into some of that. So there's some story. I'm good. But I had a download that I was in the future, and I see myself in this city with this giant spiral skyscrapers, and I'm in this mansion. And remember, my mom was Vicky, and I just remember signing up for some kind of time travel division. So I was, in a way, kind of tricked into it, but my father sold me out to the observers. They wanted to get a hold of me because they wanted to send me back in time. And the girl that I was dating in this strip club was working for my father, but he got me anyway. So the point is, I'm here now. But one of the reasons why the observers, they were looking for a lot of people, because in this particular timeline, planet Earth was destroyed in nuclear war. And so they wanted to select a lot of people in Project Surrogate, Starseeds, Lightworkers, to go back in time to change the timeline so that this planet would become more than 50% positive. Because once this planet's more than 50% positive, the plans of the Cabal are not able to work out. They're not able to manifest. So super soldiers are created by the military for multiple mirror and parallel realities. They do not use clone bodies, but choose individuals who have enhanced psionic abilities. They may be given steroids and augmentation, and they are usually the more advanced, enhanced, intelligent being developed on Earth, sometimes with ET assistance. They would use them over and over again on missions, and if they died, technologies to be applied to recover them using a regen tank. Okay, so it's compare this to veterans in the armed forces or Manchurian candidates, who are usually left to be slaughtered. The ACIO, which is Alien Contact or Advanced Contact Intelligence Organization, all kind of depends who you ask, solid resources. The super soldiers started to appear on Earth approximately 6,000 years ago, probably through Montauk and or time travel experiments. So there's usually a Sumerian connection to this. Okay, so they can spend a lot of money on this. Okay, so super soldiers are trained for psychic or psionic, telekinetic combat warfare, and they're used by the Cabal to push their agenda. Okay, so unlike Manchurian candidates, which are sacrificial lambs, super soldiers are used over and over again. So they are basically trained and genetically engineered from birth, and they're about, what I estimate, about 4 million sleeper super soldiers on planet Earth at this time. Most do not know they are one. About 1 out of every 2,000 people are sleeper or super soldier in my labs on planet Earth. Okay, you could tell someone's a super soldier by looking in their eyes. Typically, they would have been exposed to severe trauma and suffer from PTSD. Elites would pay private mercenary groups for missions, and a percentage of the proceeds will be shared amongst interested parties. I guess it'd be like Kruger or Monarch. They would put together these missions, these clone bodies. Anyway, we'll go into that. Okay, the abducted in my lab would not receive any of the benefits of their hard work. Some people have naturally evolved gifts, like psychic, telekinetic, and telepathy, and so on. The MEI, the military-industrial extraterrestrial complex, can locate these people and through trauma impose altars which access these abilities, but these abilities are suppressed in the individual's day-to-day life. The elites have removed these powers from us by DNA engineering. Okay, so they track these people out of these abilities and try to sabotage or make altars and enhance it for their own benefit and control. Okay, so super soldiers are used on different 20, 40, and now they even have some 60-year career return programs. We're regenerated with re-aging tech and biobots, or femto, pico, or nano technology. Memories are wiped and placed back in time moments before they are taken. So you need a camera at 40,000 frames per second to catch the abduction process. So here's some different programs. We heard gun Manchurian Candidate. MILAB stands for military abductions. Typically, these are performed by members of the secret space program or NGO, non-government organizations, military contractors. And MK stands for mind control, German for mind control. And ultra was a term that refers to intelligence, which is considered ultra secret. That's why they call us sometimes Mark Ultra. Okay, so yeah, 30 to 100 million. I think that might be too low for some of these programs, but it all kind of depends. But each clone avatar body can cost $1 to $7 million of all the cybernetics they sometimes install into them. With the femtonites, other expenses include the underground base, the laboratory construction, maintenance, creature breeding programs, medical unit operations, space freights, space cruisers, scientists, engineers, salaries, food, weapon systems, and they continue upgrading costs. So yeah, the trip seat is usually the most expensive piece of technology. I have some drawings of the trip seat later on, so yeah, because it has so much gold and platinum. So let's get through this. Okay, we already know about sacrificial lambs. 7 types of super soldiers, okay? Ultra soldiers. So this is the type of program that I was involved with. They all may not have started at the same time because of time travel, so it's not all linear. But anyway, so yeah. So this is Project Paperclip that came to America. So they would create these hybrids, humans that have mixed with cross like ET DNA and animal DNA. They can even convert animals alone and use that as a super soldier. The CIA and DARPA and private corporations have access to these ultra soldiers. They are known to rebel and not follow commands. Subjects can be augmented with wires, implants, steroids, or nano-pico femto injections. They can also download their consciousness between these bodies using trip seat alterations. So that's where they put this. Okay, we're gonna have to. I'll explain that later, but let's just go on here. Okay, yeah. So they appear to be normal human. Once they switch, they stop what they're doing and become mindless robot music unless they rebel. So, all right, let's go on here. So next one we have is light soldiers. So light soldiers are made by the Fourth Reich. They are the same as ultra soldiers, but they do not have the same instability issues because of long-term scientific research on DNA and the psyche. They are from a reality and can do everything that Leaksodaden can do. Let's pull that one up. Leaksodaden. So Leaksodaden are from basically a Third Reich. This was another alternate reality, but Leaksodaden means light soldiers. So this is a mirror reality in which the Nazis won World War II. Leak means light in German. In that reality, they were not a victim of the Nordic ETs who promoted eugenics and destruction of a certain undesirable races. The Nordics chose to stop supporting that reality as they were being ignored and came to our reality instead. So we also have a Kruger runner. So Kruger is a private military contractor from an alternate reality in which the Germans, the Nazis won World War II. So in this reality, Gabriel Kruger, I believe he was born like in the 1830s or 1850s, and he used time travel tech to come to the 1910s or 15s, and then he set up Kruger. And all right, Kruger. So and Kruger runners their abilities include running and parkour, bending space and time in a time-freezing zone. They are considered a more positive group. Kruger is a planetary corporation and outsources their work to other planetary corporations, but they do not necessarily follow their agenda. Think of them like a hired security patrol. Kruger was created by Gabriel. Okay, we already got that, so let's go on. ET super soldiers. So it's not just humanoids that need super soldiers. Unfortunately, there's a lot of problems out there. What was usually maybe like 4%, 2% of all the people out there are problematic. So they're always a problem. They always need a super soldier. So we also have ancient super soldiers. So these guys would protect ancient treasures such as King Solomon's gold, Manchurian gold, Templar gold, and no one knows who made them. Fables, myths, and legends of the demigods and superheroes of old. There's also a strong Sumerian connection to this, into Atlantis. I'm going to explain a little bit how my self-awakening process, how I became aware. This guy over here was Nathan. So I was communicating with Nathan over the internet when this was taking place. And so my experience is through that perception. He just got kicked out of school and upset about it so he had his parents moved to a new home. And this house was the son murdered the babysitter and the father. And so there was a murder so they got a good deal in the house, but there there was entities, a demonic entity in the house. And so I was helping him with that. But in the process, I realized that he had all these altars. And altars are different aspects of your same soul shard, but through trauma, instead of the body, the consciousness has a choice to either die and leave the body or split into different altars. So Nathan had these different altars, and you can see some of there: Max, Jeremy, Mike, Jake, ZZ, and Dante. And so these altars told me that he would sleep only 30 minutes a night while performing missions. And he said that a Dr. Gray was responsible for working on him. So I suggested that he use telekinesis or use his abilities to defend himself. And what happened is, so let's see here, December 24. Okay, 2004. So he said that when he defended himself, they tried to use telekinesis to blow up his brain, and they were deleting his memories. And he said he was in a white room. This was like right after Christmas. I was in the mall. Somebody was following me around, and I was running from this guy, and he's still following me. Well, kind of running. But he was taking my picture, and I went home and told Nathan about it. And he said that he'll take care of it, and that he, let's see here. You have to read the book about this other parts, but he said they killed him 12 times, and his soul found a new body, and then he claimed to destroy the Greys' monetary system. He burned their computers, 3,400 planets, and most of their race. Let's see here. He said he activated my DNA so that I could do everything that he could do. And he said he was one of the first souls that were made shortly after the creation of hell. And then he said, I'm one of the Supremes, one of the most powerful beings in the universe. And that he was, so he told me that in our past lives we would fight. And us fighting, we created the canyons on this planet. So I suggested to him, well, how about we, instead of doing that, let's work together and try to find a better solution. And he wasn't opposed to that idea. This was right around the time this was taking place. And I went to a MUFON meeting, and the photographer took this picture of me and published it on the newspaper there in Salisbury, North Carolina. So, it's an interesting perspective there, the I believe thing. Okay, so this is around March of 2005. The last message I got from Nathan, he claimed he was bleeding and his matter was wiped out of existence. The government was trying to destroy him, and claims he was telecommunicating to me through a power cord leading to a phone cord and connected to a computer. He said that every single atom in his body would be disassembled and reassembled into something new. All right, so this was 2 years later. All right, so at that point, Nathan is no longer messaging me, and I'm getting these needle marks, and I get this paralysis where I can't move, and I had these needle marks. So I call up poison control, and they told me if I can't move and come to the hospital to check what they might have put in my food or water, that they had to send the ambulance out. So they send this ambulance out, and they took me to the hospital. They couldn't find anything wrong with me. They said I was psychosomatic. So they kept me there for 3 weeks, and they charged me $25,000. Again, I didn't have a job. I was only 25, I think, when this taking place. So I located Nathan posting poems on a website about killing women. This is about 2 years after this happened. And I emailed him. I said, Nathan, why are you posting about killing women? What's wrong with you? And his girlfriend wrote me back and said, Nathan doesn't know who you are. So I sent the girlfriend a couple hundred pages of transcripts. At that point, Nathan sent me an email back, and this was the email he wrote me back. He said, hello, James. We are emailing you concerning Nathan Wilder. Your interest in this particular person has raised concern. Further research shall be discontinued or actions will be taken to destroy the information you have archived. We understand your concern. However, the things you've recorded are personal information. The other information you have found was fabricated by your own mind. Telekinesis and government brainwashing does not exist, has never existed. There's no evidence in any government logs that aliens have ever existed. We're watching you, James, Mr. Gray. So I wrote Nathan back and said, well, why'd you sign it Gray Wilder? Who's this Gray Wilder? Why isn't, I talked to, messaged Jezebel about it. But then Jezebel told me she said she was waking up at night. Nathan was not in the house, and she had glass shards in her back. She said she found bottles of embryos in the basement with his name on it. And I think she was taken on a Draco ship where she saw that. And that she said that she was just like, she couldn't handle it anymore. So I decided to let that all go. Okay. move on in my life. But I'm getting needle marks, injection marks, and I'm pretty sure I'm a super soldier. I have some memories about it. But it took me a while, again, to recover what I have. But at this point, I reached out to Sonny Sito. So Sonny, if anybody doesn't know, Sonny Sito thinks she was one of the Greys that were on the craft at Roswell that went down. And in this life, she's autistic, an autistic body, but she's connected to the Grave collective. And she told me that Nathan was infiltrated by government conditioning. His mind was altered by their programming. They used draconian mind erasure programs on him, which is why he was acting like he did not know you. Draconian lizards are very aggressive, and since he was connected to their government black ops, he was an easy target. Okay, so at this point, this was going into, I think, 2008, 2009. I came across Adam over here, and I was telling Adam my story. And the day that I was telling my story, some men in black were showing up at his door, and he was scared. And but he, so when he was telling me this, and he started channeling this reptilian from diary. So I have the information from the reptilian in my book here. But this, his name was Tian, and he says he's 12 foot tall, and he's like a scientist. He says he's a scientist that works on super soldiers, but he's like a hippie scientist that like a human hippie scientist that would say fuck the establishment. So he felt connected to us because he built us, and he said that humans were too stupid to build super soldiers, so they had to bring the reptilians in. And he was super proud of his experiments, but the human military that was utilizing us were abusing us, and he felt he wanted to step in. So that's when he told me about this mission with Alpha Squad 45 firing team. Essentially, they sent me to this planet off-world, and my other team was instructed to abandon me, and so he came and rescued me. Okay, so Adam is also on Alpha Squad, so we're going to go into Alpha Squad. He said he knew my biological father, said he was reptilian plating halfling. He said great destruction was coming, and I would get some of my powers back. He says my injections were indicative of CO2 modules placed to implant memories. Your eyes see, they remember and store away in your brain the correct info. The injection goes directly into your bloodstream and to your brain, which modifies the cells into thinking you saw what you actually didn't. Okay, he said Nathan was being held captive and tortured at the moon-based 45 Niner 86457, while my clone lived out his life here on Earth. Okay, and I have more information about that in my book if you want to go into that. But so Adam remote viewed some of the projects that we served together, some of our operations. And this is one of the operations. We did a regression on this one. We found that, so we went to this, we were dressed up wearing this over here, and I was a sniper. Sabretooth is one of the name I went by in the Alpha Squad, but it was a small city in Russia. So we have this, he had this scope, and the target is selling some bullet teleportation technology. So, but yeah, apparently the sniper was compromised, and they took us into custody. So the memory fades away at that point. Okay, so something else. Another memory that I have is about being on Mars. This was with the Alpha Squad with Alex Diaz, and I have more about that in my book. But a little bit about Mars right now. So Mars is, the atmosphere is about 90, well, I guess NASA says it's 96% CO2. But apparently the air is very breathable, like a similar day on planet Earth, around 8,000, 9,000 feet altitude. With thriving animal and plant ecosystems. There's like a fir tree, some cedar trees that grow there, in some of the more wetter regions of the planet. Eventually, the Germans settled the ancient lava tube systems. So on the tropical region of Mars, there's a lot of electrical storms, so they have to really build underground. Yeah, but they were not alone. Mars is basically claimed by many other different groups. Again, this was post-Mars after the Cobalt bomb. So the Draco and the sectoid races, reptilians. Yeah, the whole area is all claimed. Okay, so there's Diaz over here. Diaz was AKA Bloodstreak 54631. I'm Sabretooth 54363. Adam was a Panzik over here. He was Dreadnought 611. So we're in 7-foot tall clone bodies with heat-seeking Terminator left eyes. Alex XK56 looks like a more advanced M16 and contains 57 bullets and grenade launcher. And these are probably rail guns. Adam had an MP5. I carried a sniper. We also carried smaller N9mm pistols. So, yeah. Weapon and laser and phaser tech. We were instructed to go into this cave. So there was a problem with these human scientists were not getting along with these reptilians. So what we did was we were instructed to kill the reptilians. So we go to this portal, go down this tunnel, and on the wall we see this Cuban glyphs. So if anybody can read that, let me know. I'm interested to know what that means. So we get into the base, the facility, and there's this Nile monitor lizard right here. He's mad as hell, and he is hissing, and he says humans are foul. They can't be trusted. They want humans off Mars. In this particular incident, the reptilians were killed by the humans, and then the reptilians were angry, and they killed some of the humans as a result. So yeah, this guy's 7 foot tall. So basically what we do is we listen to them and we let them escape because they explained it. That both sides were guilty. And then when we came back, we got tortured. So they stick this. So this was probably not the Alpha Squad when we were on this particular planetary corporation. I don't really think Alpha Squad would have done this. Okay, so let me explain, because I don't have a slide in here. So Alpha Squad was basically created by a different, think of like super soldiers that escape a planetary corporation, okay? So they team up with other super soldiers and they become mercenaries and they start doing freelance work. Then other super soldiers that are being abused join their group. So that's the Alpha Squad. But yeah. So James Martin Reelsberg. So this is another one of my aspects. So I served, did 2 tours of duty in Vietnam, got 5 Purple Hearts. And I had this cross necklace that dodged a bullet, and I still carry it with me. So I died in 79 while in Persia, but that body was reanimated and taken to what I believe was Sandia National Labs, and I was actually talking to Emery Smith about it, and he actually has information about this altar of mine, but this aspect. But essentially, everything in his body down below is all cybernetic. Only his brain is organic. And I have some more conversations about him in my book. I was communicating with him, and he was telling me that he wants to die. Essentially, he's just kept in stasis. So he's an 8 foot tall cyborg. He's shot with biobots to be more blonde, and left eyes heat seeking. Okay, so the base. Yeah, the 5-star corporation. Yeah, so the 5-star corporation, that was on the wall in that room. So we think. I was actually talking to Emery about this, but he says this doesn't exist anymore. But 5-star are the different, like 5 different countries, United States, probably I think the UK, France, Switzerland, and the other one. And I'm going to go to read the book and find out the other one. But we used to run this basic security. Another one of my aspects was use Area 51, a shoreline group. So that's featured in the Uncharted video games. They even have a Saber-Tooth Mountain on there. So you want to check out the Uncharted games. Oh, yeah, he says that he thinks I'm going to die around 2045, and he's waiting to rehome to that body, but I think we're going to change this timeline. Russia, America, Germany, France, and Switzerland. So it's HQ is under mountain Switzerland, and they also have bases in Antarctica, Mars, on the moon. So George Soros and Heinz move their money around as a result of their billionaires and they own properties on Mars, so they're a part of this. So one of my altar was used by Heinz Humberg. He's the money guy for Soros and Kissinger. They have multiple copies of me on ice, and the first copy was with my mom for the first 3 years. Another copy got the MMP mirror mimicry printing technology to make me look exactly like the other 3-year-old version of me. And then they took 3-year-old me off to the moon, and they put me in its place, and that's when I began. So I trace that other aspect of me, but we'll go into that just a bit. My family, my mom was what I believe she was part of this Mantis programs, and she was more of a cyborg. But the 3-year-old version of me that originally was with her, I traced him back to the moon, and he's in the pod there's 4 pods there with about 50 kids each. And each pod is managed by a reptilian. the pod that I was in was managed by this reptilian named Muni. That's the queen mother, not Muni over there, but the queen mother. She would sometimes show up. And so I talked to Muni, this other, the kids in these pods don't have a name, but sometimes they would name them after the reptilian. Later on, once they graduate from their super soldier training, they're given a number and then later a name. So the reptilians would hatch their eggs in the incubation chambers below, and these little reptilians, they would hunt the human children and play hide and seek games, which resulted sometimes in their death, and they have reanimation tech. So if the child would try to dissociate, they would be punished as well. If the child didn't pass, the programs here, they would be sent for adrenochrome processing. So here's the other 4 cages by Lars, Zark, Maldok, and Muni. The other cages. So most of the children there were black children from some kind of Zulu tribe planet. Yeah. Okay, so I have more about that in my book if you want to read about the Muni stuff. But okay, so back in, this is probably 2010 or 11, I had a source over at Oak Ridge pull my name out of the system just to see what he could find in the DoD database. So this is Umbra 8, so 8 levels above top secret. He found a record on me, so this is what I'm going to share, what was actually given to me through DoD. So 1992, 1999, I was in Project Bleak. So this is a project carried over from the 70s, and it dealt with recruiting young males, usually older than the average operative, late teens, early 20s, and monitoring to see if certain trigger objects or words could be used in certain social situations. So they're trying to activate me. MK8C project. I was part of Project Abandonment, 1996 to 2002. This project dealt, by the way, that's me over there, a long time ago. Okay, this project dealt with taking super soldier. My mom, she liked to dress me like that. I don't know. And that room was so ugly, honestly. I tell you what, maybe it was great for the 80s. I don't know. What is it? That bed, you see the shape of the bed? That's so like 80s looking. Anyway, okay, so going back to this. Okay, this project dealt with taking super soldier candidates who were found to be either physically or mentally incompetent for the project and doing DNA modifications, injections, later nano-injections on the candidate to see if they can correct this. So basically, what this is saying is that I was rebelling and they weren't able to fully control me. Okay, lastly, Equalize. This project was a carryover project from an earlier time, was focusing on starseed children. These candidates would be checked for genetic mutations and alien DNA, such as 2 hearts and enhanced kidneys. Also, enhanced organs, which might be useful for a super soldier. So, if certain aspects were found favorable to the super soldier project, then a candidate would be sent to a specific department for alteration, program sessions, and a caseworker would then develop a specific program for the candidate. So this particular information does not say how I'm different than other people. But, okay, let's go on here. So essentially, throughout my childhood, the Draco would be abducting me and these other batch of kids from our embryo group, and they would take us to the ship and they would do this programming on us through trip seat alterations. So they would also shoot us up with this biobots that would grow like a web in the brain, and it's connected to AI. So instead of hearing our own intuition, we would hear the AI's suggestions instead. Okay, so they were grooming our group to go into the Army, and I didn't want to do any military service when I became of age. I think I knew something was up. In 1954, with the U.S. Armed Forces, that is. In 1954, the Germans developed memory wipe technology. So this was originally gray technology used by the MIB. Let's see here. The Armalux is over here, and that's the gray weapon over there. So they were also used to wipe memories, shock hammers, and trip seats. So this particular trip seat will look like a dentist chair, and there's this foam pad, and when you sink into it, the foam pad will lock you in place so you can move. So there's no need for any straps. The electrodes would then be placed over the head and the neck. The wires would come down from the ceiling. Orbs would start to appear in the room, and then all the memories would start to disappear. So, or disappear and change for something else. They could change things around. So they could change and alter these memories using holographic green laser technology, flickering from the ceiling, or a viewing monitor placed in front of the individuals. Sessions could be used for accelerated learning. For instance, you could learn a language in 2 hours. You could get a PhD in 2 days, and maybe all PhDs in about 2 months. So you can learn everything. You can download memories between clone vessels or for trauma training sessions, known as uptime, according to Barry King, Peasmer, security officer. And that's his drawing over here. So he calls them trip seats. But okay, this was drawn by Tyler Clark, but what he saw the trip seat looking like. There's 8 metallic tubes on the back of the chair. The chair is covered in plastic-looking memory foam. Electrodes connected to the fingertips and spinal cord, and the tubing injects into the central nervous system and connects to a brain and spinal cord. You hear a clicking sound, and then the body goes into another vibration, and new memories are uploaded. Hidden memories are cloaked through the edema of the brain and the femtobots. Okay, shock humor. It's invented by the Greys. So this is, I think, the new skin. He drew this. This used typically that'd be used by the Germans. Okay, let's go on. Okay, HET is a holographic examination table, as described by Supertech DSF Williams. So again, that's in here as well. So prior to 63, test tube babies grew up to become psychotic. So Dr. Gabriel, a 6'4" German blonde scientist, created a holographic age regression technology and mental programming to help people become normal. So they will place abductees on the table to blank slate their memories. So instead of just creating a clone to serve off-world that became a psychotic, they found that they could abduct a person and put on these 20-year back programs and then blank slate them at the end of their service, re-age them, and send them back seconds to when they were taken, or milliseconds. Okay, so the HET, again, so these are placed into people are placed into 20, 40, 60-year career return programs. In the Deep Space Training Academy on Mars, they would scan William weekly. Dr. Gabriel regretted using the HET to program lies into the minds of children in order to control them. William said he was going to be age regressed back to when he was a child and sent home. Was in a coma in the HET for 3 weeks, and weekly scans were used. So basically, when he served on the Mars Training Academy, they would take scans of him once a week, and then they compiled all these scans at the end of his service and re-aged him back to 8 years old, and then sent him back in time 30 years. The Stargate chair, this was different spacecraft would use a conscious chair to drive the craft. So the conscious chair would potentially open up portals, and so that's where one of these chairs were recovered and be used in the Montauk project. Here's a soul chair. So essentially, this is some kind of pink crystal. When you sit in the chair, your consciousness would come out of your body, and you can project yourself in, say, a mantid or a tall gray or something like that, and interact on the ship as one of the beams on the ship. So the Draco was abducting me, but I'm in communication with back early. One of the first slides I talked about the Atlans. So I'm communicating, my higher self is communicating to that other aspect of me, and they're guiding me subconsciously on how to sabotage their plans. Okay, once the soul is split and fragmented, it can be captured and inserted into various augmented clones, which contain some of your DNA. So the clones need to have a little bit of your DNA for your soul to connect to it. The clones are connected with different serums like compound C, which allows for shape-shifting, or holographic chips to reprogram your mind and brain and DNA. So the 3D cube, yeah, we'll just skip some of that. Okay. When they want you to activate, your signal is put through the satellites to your implants. It could also be done at a quantum level. It's a code they created, and you're not allowed to know that code. They either physically astrally teleport you outside of time into a facility. While in a clone body, you become a robotic super slave for 20 years. Okay. When they are done, they put you back seconds before you're taken. If they take your physical body, they place it in stasis and make clones for you to occupy your service. Okay, so each career return program, the memories are wiped in the previous lifetime as a civilian. So when you're serving off-world, you don't remember your life here. Okay, so Randy Kramer talks about Project Moonshadow. What this is about is just another way they train some of the super soldiers so they don't have to torture these children. They can treat them using positive reinforcement to create amazing super soldiers. It just takes more work. Aftercare. So aftercare is basically, it's a program where you get targeted after your service. So if you feel like during your lifetime you've been targeted repeatedly, that means you are part of aftercare. So in the service, we're told that we can trust them with their care over our lives, and how wonderful it is being rewarded to the right to be returning back to planet Earth as a civilian again. So my contract dictates they own me in this life and my next life as well. And they say here, if you can withstand pain and suffering, then you are free to not follow the plan. While the Secret Space Program veteran continues their awakening process, the handler will push buttons, gaslight, and make recommendations for the next step of control. They will create pain and diseases in the body to bring the SSP veteran into total misalignment. They will destroy friendships, finances, businesses. The goal is to not recover. All right, so Montauk. So the Montauk project is just a sub-program under Project Phoenix. So Project Phoenix, my understanding, it was founded back in the 1940s with the original Philadelphia experiment. And so anything that had to do with time, Project Phoenix was focused on time travel primarily, but also mind control and other splits, trying to control the consciousness. But during my time at Kruger, I was on a mission where I killed Heather. I did kill her, but she didn't stay dead. So Heather Shaw is the leader of Shaw House, and Shaw House is based in London. It's a planetary corporation, or underneath, that's located below the Tower of London, stretches out for miles in another pocket reality. So they're responsible for human trafficking, pretty much a lot of bad things on planet Earth. So Heather Shaw is the Sumerian goddess of the underworld, Orishagal. So during my time at Kruger, I killed her, but she didn't stay dead. So she sent her, and that's Vanessa Kirby over here is the clone of Heather Shaw. So she sent her sister, Janet Shaw, to recruit me for Montauk. And Janet Shaw, she is the clone. Her clone in this reality is the singer, pop star, Taylor Swift. So I don't think I would ever go to a Taylor Swift I probably would not go. So this right here was a planet about 200 years in our future. And this particular altar was AJ. And so if we ever got lost and through the time tunnels, we were instructed to come to this planet as a waypoint. So while I was on this planet waiting to be picked up, this mantis creature came to me, and she, I would say really unsexed, doesn't really, not he or she, but was a representative of this mother matrix. It was a positive AI from 700 years in our future. And this AI considers itself feminine. And she communicates through this mantis creature through vibrational waves that clicks and clacks. So they put biobots into us. She put biobots into us. So this positive AI was monitoring everything that they were doing at Montauk. Okay, so here's the barracks over there. The top level, fourth floor is where this took place. Fourth window from the right. So I fell out that window, and when I landed, I didn't land on the ground. I disappeared. And so the other kids in there were like, damn, alien boy just turned invisible. We didn't know he could do that. How did he do that? And then the security officers came out trying to look for me, but I was gone, and I was picked up by the Andromedans, because this was in a pocket reality. So the Andromedans didn't even know what was going on. I guess they finally located, and they picked me up, and I told them everything that they were doing. And then they put me back near the main gate, and I was basically reporting back to them. I was speaking in Andromedan when I was there, and they were listening to and the reptilians found out what was going on. And so when they realized the Andromedans were sending in a team from the NSA to rescue us, they put me in the trip seat twice, to erase my memory twice. Okay, so there's Preston Nichols over there on the left. That was taken 2013 when I met him. I asked him to scan me if I was a Montauk boy. He confirmed that I was, but he didn't really. I guess I should have asked him if he remembered me. But anyway, he's no longer alive anymore. Over there is Duncan Cameron, and he was doing this session where he would walk around me and instruct me to look at him. And when I did, after the session, we went out, because this was right on a barrier island on Long Island, and he went out into the bay, and he put his hands in the water, and ripples started to appear from that point, from still water in the whole bay, right? So it was really wild. Hobie, so they would mix different DNA to use me as a super soldier off-world in the 8 to 9 foot tall bodies. It all kind of depends what TN was working on. But so I have another aspect. I think this is the one that was, Yeah, this is the upper management one, vice chancellor. But vice chancellor of MCC, but this would have been probably back in the 1950s when it was still, Mars was still just a mess, like a Wild West era. But so anyway, so now that this particular body is being used to transfer the dumb facilities off to asteroids off-world. So he's helping the cabal. So unfortunately, I think that's probably why they won't let me get that memory back. Anyway, so we're going to go into the Abatavas. So Abatavas are located in an alternate reality in which the Nazis won World War II. And Alaska was considered a no man's land. So the Germans built these Abatava camps. They're super soldier training camps. And they would have indoctrination using magic. And also they had these Sumerian signs all over the place. So the year is 2042, and I'm a 14-year-old kid training in the Outback with Max Spears and James Casbolt. And this facility is 2 miles long. And so they take that particular aspect and send them back to time, back to Mars in the 1940s in our timeline. So the timeline is not linear here. But so we were transported in a hovercraft with black suit. They would spend days patrolling and skirmishing against each other. Everyone speaks German. The kids are unhappy and feeling like they're wasting their time. My hobbies include firing weapons, sword fighting, and training with advanced weaponry. I participated in competitions with some of the ancient samurai weapons. And I asked this particular altar what he wants to do for fun. He says he wants to go to Virginia Beach to surf. So he's 14 years old. And he doesn't know what hip-hop music is. There's no culture developing in the American Reich, no hip-hop culture. It's all, I guess, classical music, supposedly. After Derek graduates from the Abatava, he's taken back to 1940s Mars, and that's where he heads operations there with fighting with the reptilian mantis, being to control different large swaths of territory on Mars. But he works near New Berlin and New Warburg in the Ares Prima. He's made to colonel level to upper level management. I also spent some time in Noctuoff and Regier during this time. Most of my time was unhappy. I was staying in my cramped quarters, analyzing battle movements, operational plans, deciding where ships need to be, moving assets around, and so on. Somebody commented they saw me in my air. I don't remember the air sneaking, but I guess they did. I don't know. But I had this black uniform with gold stripes. I served under Commander Atkins on an M475 prison ship. Okay, so this particular altar, might skip this. Guys, I'm going to skip that. So we don't have time for it. Okay, jump rooms are quantum entanglement teleportation chambers. So you would walk into an elevator. The elevator walls would curve around you, and then you would be on Mars, the moon, or you could go from Paramus, New Jersey to underneath the Los Angeles airport, the Boeing facility. So these are called ARCs, aeronautical repositioning chambers. Many of the Hilton hotels are tied into this network of jump rooms where certain Illuminati members can travel between Hilton hotels to quickly do rituals. So I believe the Hilton Hotel is owned by the Cabal, and anyway, let's go on. Let's move on here. Here is a Noctuoffen food replicator, courtesy of Newskin. Ashton drew this, and you can see some of the translations there in German. So I'm going to have to move on. Guys, don't have much time for that. Another one of my altars is Jason Ring. This guy looks basically like me. He's 10 years older, and he's on stasis now, but he served at Lunar Operations Command, and they told him that I'm selling my DNA on planet Earth to make money. And he was angry at me when I first tried to access that aspect of me, and I tried to explain to him what was going on, I guess. So I think Kennedy had many kids out of wedlock, and I think he was one of them. His name was also John, so there may be multiple John Juniors, by the way. So the Thomas altar, I spent 15 years on Mars, handled by Heinz Humbert, and who handled Kissinger's money. So this was considered the Martian billionaires' row. They built these clusters of 5 mega mansions, and they're multiple levels deep. So like a ring of 5, and they go below down more and more. So Kissinger, Soros, Heinz Humbert, and David Schwartz would abduct children from planet Earth and work them in their minds until exhaustion and force them to perform rituals in their underground palaces. We do not need to move rocks around. They have matter replicators. So the whole goal is just to wear out the kids, so they would just give in to whatever the handlers wanted. Heinz Humbert has connection to Soros and the Five Star Corporation and a subgroup in the Umbrella Corporation known as the Paratroopers of the Fallen Angels Group. Umbrella Corporation is from an alternate reality in which we had a zombie apocalypse, but they are also based in this reality, and they have a facility in, I think, Thailand or Vietnam, according to Johann Fritz. But Umbrella is headed by Richard Bay, who in this reality is the actor Tom Cruise. Bill Gates and George Soros are also connected to Umbrella. So Rob Richter was one of the clone bodies that I was over there. And they converted me into a Hulk. Hulks are immune to zombie virus. The Ouroboros is what it was actually called. And the reason why they needed to create Hulks is because in that particular, earlier on, there was a slide on here that showed you that there were about 4 million sleeper super soldiers on this planet. So what happened when the zombie apocalypse took place, when an average human became a zombie, they basically could not open up a doorknob. A very smart, intelligent zombie person could have opened a doorknob, whereas a super soldier could walk through the door. So they needed these Hulks to take care of these particular zombies, super soldier zombies. So Stan Lee had access to these CIA star files, so that's where a lot of these Marvel comics. Different types of goos. We got magnetic gels. You probably have heard of black goo. Black goo is used for terraforming planets, so it can quickly terraform. But the problem is, once it interfaces with organic tissue, it can take your conscience away. It increases your IQ, but takes away your heart chakra, so it makes you takes away your ability to love. Blue goo is used for healing. Green goo also augmentation. Fluorescent yellow, green goo for stasis for the clone bodies. Red goo is converting biological organisms into a cyborg, so you have to be very specific with the dose. Yellow goo contains is also stasis, more pink goo stasis, like more of a long-term stasis for pink goo, and translucent opal is for memory wiping. Leaxidodin, I also have another alter as a leaxidodin. So again, these are essentially they would take DNA. Atlantis still exists, okay? So Atlantis, not just an alternate reality. In this reality, it's at the bottom of the ocean in these giant domes. There's 3 giant domes, whereas there's about 300 million people down there. So they are about 9 to 12 foot tall, and they have DNA that allows them to live for 100,000 years. So somehow the Germans got a hold of their DNA and used them to make these leaxidodins so they can create these clones. They grow them in a couple days, and then the leaxidodin can live for 100,000 years. So, but they would also combine different genetics to make different chimeras. So let's see here. We got Mobius is involved with this. Umbrella, Skyline. Yeah, you're gonna have to read the book to get all these planets. But let's see. So this particular black shield is located underneath the ice sheets of Antarctica in a fractal bubble reality. So it has a steampunk appearance, very much. The Tartarian aspects still exist in other alternate realities, pocket realities, where this technology still exists. So Black Shield is subcontracting to these other planetary corporations to make super soldiers. You can see over here, the main door has the shield with. So this is one of the leaxidodins that they made for me. This guy had spider and dolphin DNA, and these little crystals. Basically, when it's in light, it gives them energy, but. Okay, so Black Manta is a facility I believe it's located off the coast of Oregon. And so they make these chimeras, these dolphin men, merman creatures, these aquatic beings. So this particular time they recruited me for Black Manta. Yeah, I think Warlock, yeah, that came up in a regression. So that's the name of the facility. Black Manta is the group. Okay. But the reason why they wanted to create these chimeras is because dolphins have the ability to open up portals. I'm pretty sure they need like a whole pod of dolphins. I don't know if they can individually do it, but dolphins, there's a catechin mothership, spaceship off the orbit. I think it's Jupiter. It's absolutely massive, like a giant ocean in there. So they would go teleport back and forth to that catechin ship, and then they would go to other planets, like in the Sirius system and other water worlds. So dolphins are way more advanced than we can even imagine. So yeah, the military was trying to get access to those portals, but these dolphins, yeah, they said, nope, not going to allow it. So